Okay, so as UCLU, the first student union to have a BME officer, we got quite a praise for that.
Yeah.
What do you think, why do you think we need a BME officer? What do you think the role can do in the future?
One of the reasons I think we need a BME officer, or at least a full-time BME officer, is that so if you look at the history of UCL, BME students had to be invited in to UCL, so it was a case of sort of being like allowed to attend the university. It wasn't a case of which I guess the historical precedent is kind of that the university experience has not been tailored for Black and ethnic minority students, and the role of the BME officer is to try and sort of create this niche or represent BME students to try and make the university experience representative of BME students. And I think going further in terms of the role of the BME officer, I'd really like to see work with like professors and academics and PhD students who are at UCL to try and build a more cohesive environment, so more of a community, a larger community between the students and the professors, because I'm not sure if you're aware, they've done research on sort of experiences of academics on a national level, and it's a case of sort of like out of 14,000 professors in the UK, only 85 are of African/Caribbean descent, and only 10 of those are women. So it'd be a case of building a better foothold between students and the professors so that we can work together to try and better tailor the experience for, I guess, both groups.
And the BME officer has achieved quite a considerable success this year, notably with the huge awareness this year of Black History Month. You also mentioned that in your manifesto. What would you do with Black History Month?
I think, because this was sort of like the first big Black History Month UCL has done, so I think it was, I was involved with it sort of like volunteering, and we learned a lot of stuff from it, but I also would like to expand it to include sort of the whole range of identities represented under BME. So I would like to have more things sort of that look at East Asian cultures, South Asian cultures, so like sort of broaden the BME Black History Month experience to make sure that everyone can see themselves in an event. So for example, we had the Living History exhibition, and a few of the candidates in that were of South Asian descent, but I want to do bigger, so even if it means having an event specifically tailored to that region, that would be something I'd look into doing.
UCL has a 3%, is it 3% of students are Black? Is that around that?
Yeah, around that.
Would you hope to make UCL, how would you like to improve the intake of Black students? I mean, how would you make UCL a more welcoming place, or aim to improve?
I guess one of the things I'm sort of really big on is trying to build a support network. So while I do think more could be done to sort of accept students from Black BME communities, it's worth ensuring that there is a network for them to attach themselves to when they get to UCL. You can't just invite people and sort of just leave them stranded, which can sometimes be the case. So as well as sort of like inviting or rather outsourcing students from BME communities to go to local schools around UCL to sort of say, I'm here, you can be here too. It's a case of also ensuring that when they do come to UCL, there is someone who has their back. So it's I think I'm more concentrated, sort of build the network and then bring the BME students, I guess. Yeah.
You talk about the BME Network Committee.
Yeah.
Could you just explain that a bit more and kind of what your aims for that would be?
So, for example, the LGBT network and the women's network, and also I guess disability network, have sort of established committees with different representatives, different reps for other liberation groups within that network. So I would like something similar for BME, but I do want the committee to be sort of autonomous and decentralized, wherein the students who are in that committee are able to independently hold events under the BME network and to also work with clubs and societies that have BME interests.
You have a lot of like ties with other sort of liberation groups like the Women's Network, and you've done some LGBT plus stuff. How would you be working with other liberation officers if you were elected, and what would you be doing? I
think it's a case of trying to, one of the big things I have there is the sensitivity training, or it's something I would really like to have. So it's a case of working with the other liberation officers to ensure that in that sensitivity training, the needs of the different liberation groups are met. It's also a case of putting on events together. So for example, if we're going to be celebrating LGBT History Month or Women's History Month or Black History Month, ensuring that there is a cross-liberation presence in those events. So, you know, even if it's just a panel or a spoken word night, it's something to ensure that people see the cross-liberation work.
Set up informal mentoring groups.
Yeah.
How would this work?
I guess the informal mentoring group is a case of during the summer or, you know, sort of early September, asking students who are already here or contacting the different BME related societies and asking them if, you know, there are any students in that who would be interested. And then at the first BME network meeting, say this is something that's being offered and invite the new students, as well as, you know, second years, third years, any student who feels like they could do with having either an older student or, you know, just as any student in their department or who's studying what they study to sort of, I guess, be a guide to them and offer some sort of support. One of the reasons I say this is because I have a friend who's doing English, and she was having trouble with her degree until one of my friends, who's a third year student, sort of got in touch, and together they've worked, and that's improved her experience of the English department, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Just quick question, how many people would tend to go to the BME network? Would it be a majority of, would it be a lot of the BME students, or how would you reach out to the majority of BME students if they didn't go to the network?
If they didn't go to the network, which is one of the reasons why I do really want to create, establish a link between BME network and BME related clubs and societies. So get in touch with, you know, Islam SOC, Indian SOC, Afro-Caribbean Society, and try and build a better link between the two.
Okay. Also, you mentioned in your manifesto you'll work on a national level to create a space where BME students can share their experiences. Yeah. What do you mean by that?
I guess, so I've been in touch with several other current BME officers and sort of built links with them. And one of the things I'm really interested in doing is expanding on a project that Chanel's currently running, where students are sort of being recorded telling stories about their experiences at UCL, and I'd like to take that on a national level. So invite if it means going to campus to record these interviews, I would be willing to do that, record these interviews and put them on a sort of online portal, or create, in a similar vein to Absent from the Academy, a documentary that looks at the experiences of BME students as a whole.
You want UCLU to have alternative Freshers Week events.
Yes.
What kind of thing would those be?
I mean, they currently have them, so I think in my manifesto I say ensure they continue. So they currently have sort of things like an international tea party or a concert, you know, jazz band concert, and it's carrying on with events in that vein where the prime focus of them is not being in a nightclub or it's not drinking. It's, if it means sort of just people getting together and just hanging out without the focus being on drinking, which is one of the biggest things I'm trying to sort of move away from and ensure that that is available for students.